Story 1. I've never told anyone this story before. Not the police, not my therapist, not even the few friends I have left. But every Christmas Eve, when the snow starts falling and the house gets quiet, I hear that faint knocking again. And I wonder, is he still waiting up there? My name is Sarah Thompson. That night, 3 years ago, I thought we were having the perfect Christmas dinner. Our suburban home smelled amazing. Roasted turkey, gravy bubbling on the stove, cinnamon-spiced apple pie cooling on the counter. My husband Mark and I sat at the head of the table, our teenagers, Jake and Emily, across from us. The tree lights twinkled. Soft carols played in the background. We clinked our glasses of wine and cider, laughing about old holidays. "To family," Mark said, smiling at me. Everything felt warm. Safe. We had just started carving the turkey when it happened. A soft knock at the front door. Tap, tap, tap. Barely louder than the wind outside. The blizzard had been raging all evening, piling snow against the windows. "Probably Mrs. Jenkins from next door with cookies," I said, wiping my hands on my apron. Mark nodded, and I went to answer it. When I opened the door, the cold rushed in like a slap. There stood a man, hunched against the storm. His clothes were torn and soaked, his face hidden under a ragged hood. Snow clung to his beard. His eyes, God, those eyes, were wide and desperate, like a lost animal. "Please," he croaked, voice hoarse from the cold. "Just need to warm up. Nowhere to go tonight." I hesitated. We weren't the type to turn people away, especially on Christmas. Mark came up behind me, saw the guy shivering, and sighed. "Come in," he said. "Just for a bit." We gave him a towel, a hot cup of cocoa, and, because the table was full of food, an empty chair at the end. He sat quietly at first, eating slowly, thanking us over and over, called himself Tom. No last name. As the meal went on, we tried small talk. Where was he from? "Traveling," he said. "Lost his way in the storm." Jake asked if he had family nearby. That's when his eyes lit up strangely. "Family," he repeated, smiling a little too wide. "Oh yes, closer than you think." The kids laughed it off, but I felt a chill that wasn't from the door. He started telling stories, little things at first, how he loved Christmas dinners just like this. Then they got personal. He mentioned the time Mark and I argued about moving houses 5 years ago, word for word. How Emily had cried in her room last month after a breakup. How Jake sneaked out to meet friends when he was grounded. We froze. "How do you know that?" Mark demanded, his fork clattering down. Tom leaned back, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. "Because I've been listening, watching. You're my family after all." He reached into his coat, slowly, like he knew we'd panic, and pulled out a faded photograph. He slid it across the table to me. My hands shook as I picked it up. It was me, age 8, in a red dress at my grandmother's old house. A photo I'd never seen, one that had been lost when Grandma died. "Where did you get this?" I whispered. "From up there," he said, pointing casually at the ceiling. "Your attic. Nice and cozy. Been there almost a year now. Quiet spot to watch through the vents." The room spun. Jake jumped up. "You're lying!" But Emily was crying, backing away. Mark grabbed his phone. No signal. The landline? Dead. That's when the lights flickered. Once, twice, then steady again. But the front door, we tried it. Locked. From the outside. Windows, too, like invisible hands had sealed them. Tom, no, whatever he was, smiled wider. "I've waited so long to join the family feast properly. Down here, with all of you." He reached for the carving knife, the big one we'd used on the turkey. His fingers wrapped around it slowly. We ran, screamed, fought. Mark tackled him first, but the man was stronger than he looked. Wiry, desperate. The kids hid upstairs, but he knew every creak in the house, every hiding spot, because he'd been living above us, breathing our air, hearing our secrets. For months, I won't describe what happened next. The blood on the wrapping paper, the way the Christmas lights reflected in his eyes as he came closer, how we finally got out. Through a window, we broke with a chair, running into the snow half-dressed, screaming for help until neighbors called the cops. They found traces up there, a sleeping bag, food wrappers, holes drilled in the floor to watch us, photos, hundreds of them. He'd been obsessed. Planning this family dinner for Christmas, he vanished in the storm that night, never caught, but every year on Christmas Eve, I hear it, that faint knocking, tap, 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 from inside the house, upstairs. And I wonder if he's come back to finish the feast. Story 2. I still have that red shard of glass hidden in a drawer. On quiet nights, I take it out and hold it to the light. Sometimes I swear I see a woman's face inside, watching me, waiting for me to hang it again. My name is Emily. This happened 5 Christmases ago when Jack and I were young and stupidly in love. We had just rented this gorgeous old Victorian apartment, tall windows, carved woodwork, the kind of place that felt like stepping into a storybook. It was our first holiday together as a real couple, so we invited Jack's parents, Helen and Richard, for a quiet dinner. Just the 4 of us. I cooked glazed ham, creamy mashed potatoes, and roasted vegetables. The table looked beautiful, with candles and a small tree in the corner. Jack's grandmother had sent a box of old family ornaments. We hung them all, laughing at the tacky ones. But there was this one strange bauble. Deep red glass with black swirls running through it like veins. It was heavy and cold to the touch. Grandma's note said we had to use it. "It belongs on the tree every year," she wrote. "Family tradition." Jack shrugged and hung it near the front. We sat down to eat. Everyone was happy, telling stories, passing plates, clinking glasses. I felt like we were building something real. Then, reaching for the wine, my sleeve caught the branch. The ornament slipped. It fell and smashed on the floor with a loud crack. We all stared at the pieces. "Oh no," I said, laughing nervously. "I'm so sorry." I knelt to clean it up, but as soon as the glass broke, thick smoke poured out, gray and stinking, like old smoke from a fire long ago. The room turned freezing cold in seconds. Frost crawled across the windows. The candles burned blue. Helen coughed once, then harder. She grabbed her throat, face going white. Richard asked if she was choking, but she shook her head. Her eyes looked strange, empty. Then the whispers started. Soft, like someone talking through the walls. A woman's voice, sad and angry. "You promised. You left me. You let me die." We tried to laugh it off at first. Old building, bad vents maybe, but the voices grew louder. They told a story. A woman betrayed by her lover over 100 years ago. He promised marriage, got her pregnant, then abandoned her. She hanged herself in despair. Before dying, she cursed the ornament he'd given her as a false gift. Anyone who broke it would relive her pain forever. Helen gasped, clutching the table. I see her," she whispered. Her skin looked gray, like all the blood had drained away. Then it hit us all. I looked at Jack and screamed. His face was melting, cheeks sliding down like candle wax, eyes dripping, mouth stretching into a horrible grin. He grabbed my arm, but I pulled away in terror. Jack shouted that he could hear his parents talking, confessing awful secrets from his childhood. Things about lies, about a baby they lost on purpose, about hating each other for years. Richard saw Helen as the dead woman, neck bruised and purple. Helen saw Richard digging a grave. We were all seeing different pieces of the same old betrayal. The air rippled, and she appeared, a pale woman in a torn white dress, rope marks around her throat, eyes completely black. She floated over the broken glass. "You woke me," she said, voice echoing inside our heads. "Now feel what I felt." Suddenly, we weren't in the apartment anymore. We were in a dark garden long ago. I felt her loneliness crush my chest. Jack felt the lover's cold heart. Helen and Richard lived the murder. They saw him strangle her to keep the secret, bury her under frozen earth. We screamed, fought, cried, but every time we tried to run, the scene snapped back. We were at the dinner table again, food untouched and hot, candles freshly lit, the woman smiling at us from an empty chair. "Eat," she whispered. "The night never ends." Doors wouldn't open. Windows showed only the grave. We broke plates, said prayers, begged forgiveness. Nothing worked. Time looped. Secrets spilled out louder each round. Guilt ate us alive. I don't know how I got out. Maybe my blood on the shard broke the curse for one person. I woke alone on the cold floor at dawn. The smoke was gone. Jack, Helen, Richard vanished. Police found nothing. The apartment was empty, but I know they're still there, trapped in that endless dinner, passing the ham, smiling through the pain. And sometimes, when snow falls and the house is quiet, I hear plates clinking, and her voice, soft and patient, waiting for someone new to hang the ornament. Story 3. I keep the old iron key to the ancestral house on a chain around my neck. Sometimes, when the wind howls like it did that night, I feel it grow warm against my skin, as if the house is calling me back to finish what was started. My name is Sofia Rodriguez. I am the only one who walked out of that Christmas dinner alive. People think I'm crazy when I say it wasn't an accident, but I was there. I saw everything. Our family had always gathered at the old countryside house for Christmas. 8 of us that year. My grandparents, Abuela Maria and Abuelo Luis. My parents, my Aunt Clara and Uncle Carlos, my cousin Diego, and me. The house sat alone on a hill, surrounded by fields buried under snow. Abuela Maria spent days cooking, tamales wrapped in corn husks, steaming pots of pozole, trays of creamy flan. The smell filled every room. We set the long wooden table with red candles and poinsettias, trying to ignore the quiet arguments about Abuelo's will. Uncle Carlos was angry. He'd been cut out after years of borrowing money and never paying it back. Everyone pretended it was fine. Family, after all. We sat down, said Grace, started passing bowls. Laughter at first. Stories about old Christmases. Then Uncle Carlos made a strange face. He grabbed his throat, eyes bulging. Foam spilled from his mouth. He fell forward, knocking over glasses, convulsing on the floor. We thought he was choking. Abuela slapped his back. Nothing. Then Aunt Clara screamed. She was burning inside, she said. Her face turned red, veins standing out. She vomited blood onto the white tablecloth. One by one, it hit the others. Diego clawed at his stomach. My mother curled up, gasping. Abuelo's eyes rolled back. Only Abuela and I hadn't eaten much yet. We'd been serving. Panic took over. We tried the phone. Dead. Cell phones. No signal. The storm too fierce. Snow piled against the doors and windows. Roads completely blocked. We were trapped. Someone shouted, "Poison!" We stared at the food. The tamales, the pozole. Someone had poisoned the whole feast. Accusations flew like knives. Uncle Carlos, before he died, gasping, pointed at Abuela, whispering she wanted him gone because of the will. Aunt Clara blamed my father for always siding with Abuelo. My father looked at me, eyes wild, asking if I'd done it to protect my inheritance. I hadn't touched the food either. Paranoia spread faster than the poison. We dragged the bodies away from the table, but there was nowhere to put them. The house was freezing, power flickering. We barricaded ourselves in the kitchen, away from the dining room where the dead lay under the twinkling Christmas lights. Shadows danced on their faces. Flashbacks came in pieces. I remembered cousin Diego slipping into the kitchen 2 nights earlier when everyone was asleep. He'd been quiet, careful. I'd seen him from the stairs but said nothing. Family doesn't tell on family. Now I understood. He'd been cut from the will too, years ago, for reasons no one talked about. He'd waited, planned, mixed something slow and terrible into the masa, the broth, the caramel for the flan. Enough for everyone. More died through the night. My mother crawled toward me, reaching out, then went still. Abuela clutched her rosary, praying until she too collapsed. I hid in the pantry, listening to the groans, the wet coughing, the silence that followed each one. By morning, I was alone. The storm had stopped. I forced a window open and ran through the snow until a neighbor found me. Police said it was antifreeze, colorless, sweet, deadly, traces in every dish. They ruled it mass murder-suicide. Diego had taken some himself to avoid facing us. But I know the truth. He didn't want to die. He wanted us all gone. Revenge for being forgotten, for being left out of the family he thought owed him everything. Sometimes I dream I'm back at that table. The food is hot again. Everyone is laughing, passing bowls. Then Uncle Carlos foams at the mouth. It starts over and over. I never go back to the house, but the key still warms against my chest on cold nights. And deep down, I wonder if the poison really got everyone, or if something of Diego is still waiting in that kitchen, ready for the next family reunion. Story 4. I keep a mirror covered in my bedroom now, but on Christmas Eve, when the city lights flicker like they did that night, I uncover it just to check. And sometimes, she winks back at me. My name is Sophie. Liam and I were so excited that Christmas Eve. Our modern loft in the city was perfect. High ceilings, big windows overlooking the skyline. We'd invited our close-knit family, my parents, Liam's sister Anna and her husband, and his folks. 8 of us total. I spent all day prepping prime rib, creamy potatoes, and a big bowl of eggnog spiked with rum. The table sparkled with silverware and candles. Liam hung mistletoe, kissing me under it. "This is our future," he whispered. Everything felt idyllic, like a holiday card come to life. We were about to sit when the doorbell buzzed. Liam checked the intercom. "Who is it?" A voice crackled back. "It's me, Ethan." We froze. Ethan was Liam's identical twin, killed in a car crash 5 years ago. We went to the funeral. But there he stood in the lobby cam. Same face, same build, looking lost in a thin coat. Liam buzzed him up, pale as snow. When Ethan stepped in, the family gasped. He looked exactly like Liam, down to the scar on his chin. I don't remember much," he stammered. "Amnesia from the accident. Been wandering. Found my way here tonight." Tears flowed. Liam hugged him tight. We all did. Shocked, but relieved. A miracle on Christmas Eve. We pulled up an extra chair, poured him eggnog, and welcomed him to dinner. At first, it was joyful. Stories flew, old twin pranks, family trips. But as we ate the prime rib, subtle things bugged me. Ethan knew details only Liam should. Like my secret fear of drowning from a childhood lake incident I'd only told Liam in bed. "Remember that nightmare, Soph?" Ethan said casually, eyes on me. Liam frowned. "How'd you know that?" Ethan shrugged. "Must have heard it somewhere." Tensions rose. Liam excused himself to the bathroom, saying his stomach felt off. Minutes passed. Too many. Anna called his name. No answer. We searched. Empty. Then screams echoed from the hall. We rushed out. Liam lay crumpled, neck twisted wrong. Dead. Back at the table, Ethan sat calmly, sipping eggnog, but his voice shifted, now sounding like Anna. "He's gone, she said in her tone. The face rippled slightly, like water. Nose a bit sharper, eyes Anna's green. We backed away. My dad yelled, "What the hell are you?" It laughed, voice morphing to my mom's. "Not Ethan, not anyone. I take what I need." Subtle shifts again. Now my dad's mustache, my build. It was a doppelganger, an entity that fed on stealing identities. It had replaced Liam earlier that day, slipping in when he was alone. Now it mimicked us perfectly, sowing doubt. "Is that really your husband, Anna?" It said in my voice, pointing at her man. He lunged, thinking she was the fake. Chaos exploded. Doors locked themselves, clicks echoing. Windows sealed shut. It forced a twisted game. Guess who's real? Wrong. I absorbed them. My mom stabbed at what she thought was the monster, my dad. Blood sprayed. He gurgled, falling. Anna screamed, attacking her husband, convinced by the whispers. He fought back, knife from the table sinking into her chest. I hid under the table, heart pounding. The entity shifted voices, laughing in Liam's tone, then mine. Bodies thudded around me, mistaken stabbings, throats slit in panic. Psychological torment twisted every word. Sophie fears drowning? Let's see. It dragged my sister-in-law to the sink, holding her head under running water as she thrashed, bubbles rising. One by one, they fell, absorbed. Their faces melted into the thing's form, screams fading. The loft reeked of blood and eggnog. Festive lights blinked mockingly on the carnage. Finally, alone with it. It stood before me, shifting to my exact image, my curly hair, my freckles, my eyes. Now it's just us, it whispered in my voice, stepping closer. Guess who's real? I grabbed a shard of broken glass, slashed wildly. It howled, form rippling. I ran, smashing a window, leaping to the fire escape. Sirens wailed below. Police found the bodies, ruled it a family massacre, no trace of the entity, or Ethan. But I know it's out there, wearing someone's skin. And every Christmas, when carols play, I hear it, my own voice, whispering holiday songs in a mocking tone. From the mirror. From inside me, Story 5. I still smell the masala on cold nights. It drifts through the house like smoke from a fire that never quite went out. And sometimes, when I'm alone, I open that old recipe book just to feel the pages. They're always colder than the room. My name is Priya Patel. My family moved to America for a better life, and last Christmas we bought our dream home, an old farmhouse in the countryside, far from the city noise. It was beautiful. Wide porch, big kitchen, acres of snow-covered fields. The price was so low we thought it was luck. Now I know better. There were 8 of us that first holiday. My parents, my husband Arjun, our little daughter Aisha, my brother Vikram, Grandma, and Uncle Raj. We wanted to blend traditions. Christmas lights on the tree, but dinner was fusion. Tandoori turkey rubbed with spices, masala stuffing, aloo gobi, and raita. Grandma found a dusty leather recipe book in the attic the day we moved in. She insisted we use it for the stuffing. "This book belongs to the house," she said, eyes shining. "It will make the meal unforgettable." We laughed, but we followed her instructions. The kitchen smelled incredible. Garlic, cumin, coriander, roasting turkey. We set the long oak table with candles and rangoli patterns made of colored rice. Aisha danced around in her red dress. Everyone was happy. We sat down to eat. Plates piled high. Laughter. Then the food started to move. At first it was small. The stuffing on my plate shifted, like something underneath was breathing. Plates rattled gently, as if the table itself was hungry. We joked about earthquakes, but Aisha took a big bite of turkey and suddenly choked. Her eyes went wide. She clawed at her throat, gasping. "Something's moving inside," she cried. Arjun hit her back until a piece came out, but it wriggled on the tablecloth like a pale worm before going still. The air turned freezing. Frost bloomed across the windows from the inside. Candles flickered blue. Then they appeared. Ghosts. A whole family. Mother, father, 3 children. All bones and gray skin, eyes sunken deep. They sat in empty chairs around us, skeletal hands reaching for our plates. Their mouths moved without sound at first. Then whispers filled the room. We starved. So long ago. The crops failed. Nothing left. Grandma dropped her spoon. "The book," she whispered. "It was theirs." Visions hit us like punches. We saw it all. The previous owners, a family from the Great Depression era, trapped here by a brutal winter. Crops gone, animals dead. They ate the last grain, then leather, then each other. The mother wrote the recipes in that book with shaking hands, mixing herbs to hide the taste. They died at this very table, wasting away over weeks. Now they were bound to the recipes, to anyone who cooked from those pages. Possession started slowly. Uncle Raj's eyes rolled back first. His skin tightened, cheeks sinking as if days passed in seconds. He stared at the food like he hadn't eaten in years. Then Vikram groaned, clutching his stomach. "So empty," he moaned, voice not his own. Aisha screamed as her little arms thinned before our eyes, skin shriveling, bones showing. She aged backward into starvation in minutes. Arjun tried to carry her away, but the doors wouldn't open. Windows froze solid with thick, unnatural ice. The house had locked us in. The ghosts smiled with cracked lips. They made us watch, made us feel it. My parents wasted away on their chairs, ribs pressing against shirts, begging for bites that turned to ash in their mouths. Grandma tried prayers, Hindu mantras, then Christian ones, but the spirits only laughed. The possessed turned violent. Uncle Raj lunged at Vikram, teeth bared, driven by cannibal hunger. Blood spilled across the rangoli. My father, eyes empty, reached for Aisha with shaking, claw-like hands. Arjun fought them off with a chair, screaming my name. I hid in the pantry, with what was left of my daughter, holding her as she grew lighter and lighter in my arms. Her whispers turned to dust. The ghosts fed through the food, sucking life from every bite we'd taken. Abundance became famine. Full plates stayed full, but our bodies emptied. By dawn, I was the only one still breathing. The house unlocked itself. Frost melted. Bodies lay around the table like dried leaves, faces frozen in hunger. I burned the book, or thought I did. But it's back in the attic now, pages clean, waiting, and every Christmas, the kitchen smells of tandoori and masala again. I hear plates being set, small footsteps, Aisha's laugh. The house wants its meal to be unforgettable, just like Grandma promised. Story 6. I still get delivery notifications on my phone sometimes. Even though I changed the number years ago, the app says, "Your order from Fusion Delight is on the way." I delete it fast, but my hands shake, because I know what was really in that bag. My name is Jenna Lee. My husband David and I lived on the 28th floor of a fancy high-rise downtown. That Christmas, we decided to host the whole extended family, 12 of us crammed into our apartment. My elderly parents, David's sister Grace with her husband and 2 little nieces, cousin May and her brother Jun, plus Aunt Linda. We were too busy to cook, so we ordered takeout from a trendy fusion place. Glazed ham, sushi rolls, dumplings, cranberry spring rolls, everything fancy. The table looked amazing under the string lights. Eggnog flowed. The kids ran around excited, laughter everywhere. It felt perfect. The food arrived hot. We unpacked the bags, passed containers, dug in. At first, it was all jokes and stories. Then May wiped her forehead. "So hot in here," she said, even though the AC was on. Sweat poured down her face. Her eyes went glassy. She stared at June's arm like it was food. Suddenly, she lunged. Teeth sank into his forearm. Blood sprayed. Jun screamed, shoving her off. May growled, actually growled, foam bubbling at her mouth. She went for him again, rabid, wild. Panic exploded. We pulled her away, but then Grace started coughing, fever burning her up fast. Her husband held the nieces back as Aunt Linda clutched her stomach, eyes turning red. One by one, fever, aggression, foaming. My dad tried to calm everyone, but his voice turned into a snarl. David grabbed his phone, 911 busy. Building intercom blared, "Quarantine protocol activated. Remain indoors. Do not attempt exit." Doors locked automatically, elevators shut down, windows sealed with emergency metal shutters. We were trapped. Later, we learned the truth on the emergency broadcast. A bioengineered virus escaped from a secret lab 3 blocks away. Meant for research, airborne, and food stable, it hitched a ride on our delivery order. Fast incubation turned people into something mindless and violent. The infected changed quick. May ripped into Jun with her nails. Grace used a sharp candy cane like a knife, stabbing wildly. My mom wrapped Christmas garland around Dad's neck when he tried to help, pulling tight until his face went purple. The little nieces hid under the table, crying, until Aunt Linda dragged one out, teeth bared. David and I barricaded ourselves in the kitchen with the 2 girls and my dad, who was still normal then. We pushed the fridge against the door. The pounding started, fists, bodies slamming. Screams turned to wet gurgles outside. The virus mutated. We heard it on the radio before the power flickered. Now airborne too. Vents hissed. My dad started sweating. "Jenna," he whispered, backing away. "If I turn, do it quick." Tears ran down his face. I held a heavy cast iron pan, hands shaking. When his eyes glazed and he lunged for the youngest niece, I swung. The sound it made, I still hear it. The girls cried harder. Then one started coughing. Fever. We had minutes. Had heart-wrenching choices. Mercy or wait. David held his niece as she changed, whispering he loved her, then used a chef's knife. I couldn't watch. I couldn't stop him. Outside, sirens wailed, police, hazmat teams, but they couldn't get in. The building stayed sealed for containment. By midnight, it was just me. Barricade broken. Blood everywhere. The dinner table smeared red over white tablecloth. Sushi scattered, glazed ham torn apart like flesh. Bodies twisted under twinkling lights. Candy canes sticky, garlands soaked. I sat in the corner until dawn, when the shutters finally lifted. Rescue teams in suits found me curled up, covered in blood that wasn't all mine. They burned the bodies, decontaminated the apartment, said I was immune, rare gene, lucky. But every Christmas, the smells come back. Soy sauce, cranberry, blood. I hear pounding on the door. Growls under carols, and my phone buzzes. Your order is arriving soon. I never open the door anymore, but sometimes late at night, I wonder if the virus is still out there, waiting for the next family dinner. For more stories like this, share and subscribe Goofy Horror.